JSB Talks Digital.
Hello and welcome to JSB Talks Digital, the podcast for marketers, digital transformation champions, and those of you bringing your skills into the digital age. I'm Joanne Sweeney-Burke and this podcast is brought to you by Digital Training Institute. In this episode, number 115, I'm sharing how social media reacted to the recent visit of Pope Francis to Ireland. In social media news, Facebook is using a trustworthiness score to tackle fake news. The UK government launches an investigation into social media influencers. And Pope Francis draws attention to social media during his address in Croke Park. We'll take a listen back to the key moments of the papal visit from a social media perspective. In shoutouts, 3 brands that newsjacked the papal visit, Ask JSB in JSB's column, my analysis of social media during Pope Francis's visit to Ireland, and finally find out what social media tool saved my working week.
Social media news.
Facebook is rating the trustworthiness of its users on a scale from 0 to 1, and apparently it's been using this reporting scale for the past year. It's in an attempt to combat the ever-increasing problem of fake news. So we're all being monitored. The score is used to alert possible fake news to fact-checking organisations. Facebook product manager Tessa Lyons, in an interview with the Washington Post, said that the score works to classify users that have reported posts on Facebook using the reporting tool. Some users, she says, report posts not because they are false, but because they don't agree with the content. Users that regularly flag posts that actually contain fake news will have a high score. Users that flag posts that waste fact-checker time have a lower score. The UK government's Competition and Markets Authority has launched an investigation into whether social media influencers are declaring when they have been paid or otherwise rewarded for posting about a product. The CMA has said it has seen examples of posts which they say appear to promote or endorse products without clearly stating if the post has been paid for, or offer the celebrity's personal opinion on the benefit of a product without clearly disclosing they are being paid by the brand. George Lusty, the CMA's Senior Director for Consumer Protection, said social media stars can have a big influence on what their followers do and buy. If people see clothes, cosmetics, a car, or a holiday being plugged by someone they admire, they might be swayed into buying it. So it's really important they are clearly told whether a celebrity is promoting a product because they have bought it themselves or because they have been paid or thanked in some way by the brand. The Pope said social media can serve to build a network of friendships and solidarity and can be beneficial if used with moderation and caution, and it helps connect families. Speaking at Croke Park, he said it was important that social media never becomes a threat to the real-life relationships by imprisoning us in a virtual reality and isolating us from the very real relationships that challenge us to grow. You can watch the Pope's comments about social media on the blog post associated with this podcast over at digitaltraining.ie.
Interview.
In this episode, I share audio from the media that was shared online and how they approached covering the papal visit. It's an excellent case study of social media news in a world where the news cycle is now 24/7.
JSB Talks Digital.
The Pope is coming. And of course, with the Pope coming, there's going to be a whole lot of people trying to make some money out of the visit. There's going to be merchandise selling all over the place. So we're here in Dublin city centre and we're going to look around and see what's available right now.
The Vatican flag flies over the Irish capital. It's 39 years since the last papal visit. Congregation numbers are falling, but more than 70% of people identify here as Catholic. When John Paul II came in 1979, 3/4 of Ireland came out to welcome him. Since then, there's been a massive social revolution. Divorce, contraception, gay marriage and abortion, all prohibited by the Church, are now legal. And the Church now faces perhaps its biggest challenge in modern times, its legacy of child sex abuse.
Holy Father, during your papacy, we have witnessed your compassion for people who are on the edge of our society. At times in the past, we have failed, and there are dark aspects of the Catholic Church's history. Holy Father, we ask that you use your office and influence to ensure that this is done here in Ireland and also around the world.
Considerando la realtà dei più vulnerabili, non posso che riconoscere il grave scandalo causato in Irlanda dagli abusi su minori da parte di membri della Chiesa incaricati di proteggerli ed educarli. Il fallimento delle autorità ecclesiastiche, vescovi, superiori religiosi, sacerdoti e altri nell'affrontare adeguatamente questi crimini repugnanti ha giustamente suscitato indignazione e rimane causa di sofferenza e di vergogna per la comunità cattolica. È mio auspicio che la gravità degli scandali, degli abusi che hanno fatto emergere le mancanze di tanti serva a sottolineare l'importanza della protezione di minori e adulti vulnerabili da parte dell'intera società.
They came from right across the country and from abroad, at least 1,000 people walking in memory of almost 800 babies, passing dozens of children's toys on the way to where it's believed the remains of those babies lie in septic tanks on the site of the former Tuam Mother and Baby Home.
Shoutouts.
In this part of the show, I give shout-outs to brands, organisations or individuals whose work online is remarkable and worth talking about. In this episode, I'm sharing 3 brands who newsjacked the papal visit.
1.
A key advantage of social media is being able to hijack or newsjack a trending topic. This often used tactic was in play by many brands in the lead up to the papal visit. Bookmaker Paddy Power commissioned a survey on confession and also erected a life-size confessional box to help the people of Ireland repent decades of sins in seconds ahead of the Pope's visit. The survey found that over 25% of Irish people had not attended confession in over 10 years or more. Almost 80% said they do not go to confession regularly, and that being once a month. A further 29% disclosed that it was so long ago they can't remember when they last confessed. I think I'm in that category also.
2.
Not missing a promotional opportunity either, Tourism Ireland highlighted Ireland's Christian heritage in a video. Make sure you jump over to digitaltraining.ie to read the blog post associated with the podcast.
3.
You can clearly tell that I'm maximising the opportunity of the papal visit to showcase my digital analytical skills. I've written an extensive blog post on how social media responded to the Pope's visit, and of course, I'm also producing this podcast.
Ask JSB.
In this week's Ask JSB, Alex wants to know what tools I used to undertake my analysis of the Pope in Ireland through the social media lens. Thanks for your question, Alex. Everybody always wants to know what tools JSB uses. In this instance, I actually used a number of tools to analyse the available data from across the internet. First of all, I used TalkWalker for social listening, so that covered web, online media and social networks. Then I used Union Metrics for hashtag analysis. Following that, I used BuzzSumo to get trending content. And finally, I used RightTag for hashtag metrics. I also used one more tool, but you're going to have to wait to the end of the show for Social Media Tool of the Week to find out. If you have a digital marketing or social media question, don't forget you can have it answered on the show. Use the hashtag AskJSB on Twitter or Instagram. You can also leave me a voicemail with your question at digitaltraininginstitute.ie/AskJSB.
JSB's column.
In today's JSB's column, I'm sharing what I discovered when I followed and analysed Pope Francis' recent visit to Ireland. Twitter was by far the most dominant social network, commanding a consistent lead over any other platform throughout the 2 days. The pace and speed of tweets was remarkable. In any given hour, there were over 260 tweets and over 500 retweets. 25% of tweets were tweeted with links and 14.5% of tweets had mentions. 24% of tweets had images and the hashtag reached almost 800,000 people in just 1 hour. Over the course of the 2 days, the potential impressions of the hashtag was 62 million people. This is pretty remarkable. Twitter fans were rewarded when they tweeted about the Pope in Ireland. So when we tweeted with any of the trending Pope hashtags, the bespoke Twitter emoji appeared. Those trending hashtags were Pope in Ireland, Papa in Erin, the Irish version, WMOF 2018, and a Festival of Families. Twitter often creates a unique emoji for major public events where there's a massive public interest. Speaking to the media, Karen White, Twitter's Director of Public Policy for Europe, said, "The visit of Pope Francis is one of the biggest events happening in Ireland this year, and naturally many people will be using Twitter to discuss his time here. We wanted to encourage everyone across the world to join the conversation on Twitter, so we've created the special emoji for people to use." The papal selfie was one of the biggest talking points throughout the 2-day visit of Pope Francis to Ireland. 12-year-old Alison Nevin stepped forward to meet Pope Francis, and we could see her mouth uttering, "Can I have a photo?" Almost immediately, the crowds roared in applause, and she took a papal selfie. Pope Francis was happy to be part of the moment. He even motioned to the reaction of the crowd. This moment and this Twitter video was one of the most viral over the 2 days. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar's speech was very well received on social media when he called on the Pontiff to use your office and influence to bring justice and truth and healing for victims and survivors of clerical abuse. In terms of demographics and those involved in the social conversations, almost twice as many men than women were engaged in the Pope in Ireland hashtag over the 2 days, with the age profile capturing the interest of 80% of those aged between 18 and 34. Apart from the trending hashtags, there were a number of significant talking points around the Pope's visit to Ireland, which I also captured. Among those were Tuam Babies and Stand for Truth. Twitter was used extensively by the news organisations for live reporting. Sky News created a Twitter moment which allowed us to follow hour-by-hour updates, which they also pinned to their profile. RTE's tweets performed particularly well, and in fact 2 of their tweets were the most retweeted over the course of the 2 days. The official Instagram account of Pope Francis was not actively used during his visit to Ireland. In fact, there was only one photograph shared as the Pontiff climbed the steps of the papal jet in the Vatican before flying to Ireland. I jumped over to the World Meeting of Families Instagram account also to get a sense of their visual storytelling, but it was similarly lacking. The social media footprint of this high-profile event was not maximised in any sense of the word on Instagram. There was, however, lots of user-generated content, with festival goers using the hashtag WMOF2018 with great enthusiasm. Neither Instagram accounts use the stories feature either. I think overall, it's probably a big missed opportunity. And finally, the big takeaway from the weekend on social media during the Pope's visit was the extent of user-generated content right across all social networks. If you weren't in Croke Park, if you weren't in Knock, or if you weren't in the Phoenix Park for the Mass on the Sunday, all you had to do was to follow the hashtag and follow the insights and the stories of the 200,000 people who went along. For me, it was a really interesting exercise following the Pope's visit through the lens of social media. Thanks to the media, I was able to follow it from every possible angle. We're a very different country now than we were in 1979. People of my generation grew up listening to stories of Pope John Paul's historic visit, whether to Dublin, Drogheda or to Knock. There's no doubt there have been other public interest events that have generated much more social engagement. And in my opinion, without the activity of the media, the scale of the social conversations around the Pope's visit to Ireland would have been significantly less. If you're interested in reading the full blog post, make sure you jump over to digitaltraining.ie. If you want to discuss a social listening project, then get in touch. Drop me an email to joanne@digitaltraining.ie.
Social media tool of the week.
The social media tool that saved my working week this week is the Twitter search bar. I used it right throughout the weekend of the Pope's visit to monitor Twitter conversations, media updates, and the opinions and views of the general public. I also used it to find and curate user-generated content. If you're not using this as a core social listening tool, then you're missing a social media trick. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 115 of JSB Talks Digital. If you're a regular listener to the show, I'd love a review. As always, I have everything discussed on today's show on my award-winning blog over at digitaltraining.ie. The credits for the papal montage are also on that blog post. Don't forget, we're now on Google Podcasts, reaching even more Android users. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. If you're interested in becoming a digital marketing pro and work in the public sector, check out my new diploma in digital communications for public sector. It's now live at publicsectormarketingpros.com/diploma. You can also listen to the first episode of the Public Sector Marketing Pros podcast series. That show is on digital transformation and is available from all the podcast channels. Thanks as always for continuing to listen, and don't forget you can get in touch throughout the week on social media. You can tweet me to a Tweets by JSB, post a comment on our Facebook page, Digital Training Institute, or you can also snap me to JSB Snaps, or why not send a boomerang to my Instagram account at JSBgrams. I'm Joanne Sweeney Burke. This is JSB Talks Digital. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
JSB Talks Digital.